dear Bagginses and Boffins.
Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the Rings of Power Season 2. And for this video, we thought we would do kind of a little rundown of all of our main storylines that we've been building up through the past 8 episodes and where they might be going in Season 2. And so I'll start off with one that kind of prompted this discussion, which is the confrontation, the looming confrontation between Adar and Sauron. As everyone sort of remembers, at the very end, Halbrand / Sauron leaves the elves, makes his way all the way to Mount Doom. And what we know was happening there is that Adar was the one who set off the volcano in hopes to make a land where the orcs could live, without being afraid of the sun and kind of being free from being hunted or their enslavement to Sauron. And while we know the ending of how this battle or confrontation will play out, we're going to potentially see it. And I personally don't want to see it as much. I think because we know the answer, we know what's going to happen, putting too much screen time towards it will bore some people. But you might have a different take on that.
I mean, I'm fine to see it. I think I'm curious how it plays out, because I like Adar, and I think he's kind of what he did was kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
he kills Sauron, and then he becomes like a Moses figure for the orcs.
Yeah,
leads them to a promised land. Does this all under the nose of the elves. I think he's a cool figure. And
yes.
Just seeing how does Sauron defeat Adar? How does he turn? You think the orcs would presumably be pissed off if Sauron kills their Messiah?
Right. Why would they join him after that?
Yeah. So how does he pull this off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, to your point, that him being a very likable character at the end, when he's being interrogated by Galadriel, he comes off as the good guy. So
yeah, he does.
Galadriel comes off as a villain, basically kind of quoting villains from like superhero films. And he comes off as, like you said, a Moses, a savior character for the orcs. Now, as human audience members, a lot of people just have an immediate negative reaction towards orcs, and I actually thought this was one of the better ideas coming from the writing team in terms of adding some level of morality and ethics towards the orcs that we didn't get to see previously. While they still are kind of vicious and scary to look at, they are still living creatures, and the question ultimately is, like Galadriel basically feels like it's her right and duty to exterminate them, which sounds incredibly villainous. And so, yeah, I agree towards the end. How does Sauron get the orcs back after they believe him to not only be dead, but they don't like him? He was treating them badly. They felt like they were slaves towards it, just a means towards his end goal. And Adar treats them like they are his equals almost. Like he treats them with respect, more respect than we've ever seen anyone treat orcs, even more so than orcs treat themselves. And so,
more respect than Harfoots treat other Harfoots.
Yeah, that's right. And so Adar comes across as, like you said, a very likable character at the end, and basically completely flips the script. And we're now kind of rooting for Adar. Unfortunately, I mean, if you're watching this show, spoilers, but we know the ending towards that. And so unfortunately, we know what's going to happen here. To me, the more interesting part that you pointed out is at the end. How does Sauron get the orcs back on his side? But the build up towards this conflict, like if they have a bunch of scenes where it's like trying to avoid conflict, I know that there's going to be conflict here. Like they cannot coexist. So I say just either like get to it right away, or don't show them for a few episodes and then boom, have like an episode dedicated to that or something like that.
I mean, I do feel like, I mean, we're going on a tangent a bit, but I feel like Halbrand is gonna bump into Isildur. Don't you think?
I do think there's got to be something there. There's a reason that they have Isildur separated from the rest of Numenor and the rest of the humans that were fighting alongside them. Clearly, he's on his own for a reason, and I think you're right. I think there's got to be something there. Which, again, this could either add to or subtract from your enjoyment.
Maybe Isildur will manipulate. I don't know. Halbrand Sauron will manipulate Isildur into helping him defeat Adar.
I see. I was thinking it would be more Isildur turning Sauron into an even more bigger villain. Because I really hate Isildur in this show. But you're right. Like, what else is, like, they've separated Isildur. We know Isildur's got to be a integral part of this now. He's on his own, and he's either going to be coming across orcs or Halbrand, and he recognizes and knows Halbrand. So there's that going for him when he sees him.
Or they could go in a completely different direction. Like, Numenor could return, help Sauron defeat Adar, and this is how Sauron gets the ear of Pharazôn and then ends up manipulating the Numenorians.
Yeah, and well, see, the part of the problem I have though is because the way they ended the episode 8, we don't know how much time has passed. So Halbrand, Galadriel confronts Halbrand. Halbrand reveals who he is, and then leaves, and then we cut to him like arriving in Mordor, and so at this point,
simply walking into Mordor.
Yeah, that's right. But at this point, has Galadriel had enough time to send word to Numenor that Halbrand is Sauron? Could Halbrand simply stroll, like you say, could he just simply stroll into the Numenor camp, say, I've returned, the elves have a mission for us, we're supposed to finish this fight and kill these orcs, or something like that. And then they ride in, they kill Adar, and then he regroups with the rest of the orcs and starts building his kingdom that way. Like, to me, there's enough time to get word down there to tell them that this is Sauron. So
I don't know if Pharazôn will care though. Pharazôn.
Oh, I see.
Might have the hubris to think that it doesn't matter that.
I see. Because now that, but then at that point, is Pharazôn actually being corrupted by Sauron, or is he already kind of a villain? And I mean,
I think he was kind of a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in this show, he's clearly overreaching his political position. Like he's clearly
he's supposed to marry Muriel.
Ah, yes.
And then become king.
Yeah, so it's gonna kind of be like a forced marriage, is my guess. So yeah, so I guess we'll move on. So Numenor, they have some growing pains to do now. So Numenor has returned. The army has returned home to their little island nation, and it's kind of changed. Pharazôn has basically taken over as like a pseudo emperor or king, and obviously he doesn't have a right currently to hold that position. Now, it's not clear who actually, like, we don't actually know the line of succession if it can go to a woman. It seems like it could. Like, it made it seem like she was next in line. Like, they call her queen.
Yeah.
Even though her father was still alive. So, like, they had some weird naming things going on. So, technically, I believe she is the ruling person. But whether or not she has the backers to help her with that is another question. I think that's ultimately where they go. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, where we're going to kind of see a lot of political inner turmoil where Pharazôn basically forces her to marry him to keep her position, but then he just kind of usurps the power from her and rules as a king himself.
And you can see the what's the guy's name that was made the lieutenant, Isildur's friend?
Oh,
Valandil.
Yeah.
So Valandil's gonna come back, and then Antemo's fiance is gonna come up and ask where Antemo is, and Valandil's gonna be like, "Who's Antemo?"
Yeah. Oh, that guy that was following us around that we weren't really friends with. So I don't think it goes in that direction. I personally don't think they talk about it at all. But if they do talk about it, I think
he'll be sad about Isildur being gone, but then she's gonna be like, "What about Antemo?" And he's like, "Who cares about Antemo?"
No, I think he's actually. I think it's gonna be one of those weird things where like they get together.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those weird like, oh, I lost a friend, you lost a fiance, or were they married? I forget.
I don't think they're married.
No,
yet.
so you lost like a boyfriend or a fiance. I lost my friend. We'll be together to like share in that pain or something like that. I don't think they dedicate any time to that though, because who cares about Antemo?
I like Antemo.
I mean, I did too. The guy was one of these like sacrificial characters where everything he said, you knew he was gonna die. Like everything is like, I don't want to go to war. I just want to go home and be with my girlfriend and live happily ever after. Like you're dead, dude. You're gonna die in this battle now because you just said that. look at these crazy characters running around fighting people. None of them are saying what they're gonna do after this battle because they know as soon as you say that, you're done. I mean, heck, literally we have a character in a burning building when it collapses on him, and he's gonna live. Isildur's gonna come out, not a scratch on him, and be like, "Yep, what happened? What did I miss?" So
maybe you'll have something twisted like Halbrand, because we know we have a complexly evil character. Maybe Halbrand revives Isildur.
Oh, so this is what you're kind of getting into something where these are scenes that you're talking about where they either make or break the original trilogy. Like they either make it better or you cannot watch the same, like you can't watch both of these and have the same understanding. Galadriel is one of these characters right now where they're not the same character to me. Not yet. That's a scene like that. It either adds to those moments in the prologue of the original trilogy when Isildur is fighting Sauron. It can add to some.
You'll find out that Sauron had actually saved Isildur.
Yeah, so that can actually add to that scene, thus fulfilling this prequel, being a true part of the overall trilogy, and then I guess extended trilogy of movies. Or it could be bad and they could do it completely wrong and wreck it by just having a bunch of weird meme moments that like have him step on his sword as he picks it up and it breaks. Like, you know what I mean? Like just basically.
Do that too, yeah.
So I would actually like to see the two of them meet. I do think that the two of them would be good for the original trilogy, but I can see them also screwing it up as well. So I'm kind of hesitant. Like at this point, I'm hesitant for Sauron to do anything. He's already been set up as like kind of not a bad guy yet. Like he's not that bad yet. Yes, we've been told by Galadriel and by other characters that Sauron's super evil. He's done a bunch of bad stuff. We haven't really seen him do anything bad yet. So it's not like it's really hard right now to see him become a villain. Without like, what does he even have to lose to like turn him evil? Like what is that final straw that he flips and says, no, we need to wage war on human and elf kind?
It's because Galadriel rejected.
It's because he's an incel. Yeah, that is not what I want. Yeah, incel Sauron. No, that is like that's what I'm saying. It can't be that. There has to be more. I cannot watch 6 movies and 5 seasons of a show for some weirdo to
The villain the whole time. The villain was just an incel.
A complex Walter White incel. So yeah, we've kind of touched on Numenor, Halbrand. Obviously the elves and dwarves have stuff going on there. We can kind of talk about that a little bit. They seem to have solved their problem of needing enough mithril. Halbrand, Sauron, solved the problem for them. And so at this point, we now just kind of have a political drama brewing in the dwarven kingdoms, right? So we've got to figure out.
Oh yeah, because Durin's gonna have a brother show up.
Right, and Durin was forced to take off his. It's not quite a necklace. It's almost like a breastplate piece that he wears around his neck. Whatever it was some sort of symbol of his birthright of being the heir to the kingdom of the dwarves. And his father told him to take it off because he had betrayed his father by trying to get more mithril for the elves. So in a similar, in a parallel fashion, we have Numenor with their political intrigue, where a king is usurping power from the rightful queen. In the dwarves, we might have a brother potentially trying to usurp power from his older brother. So I think that's where we go with the dwarves. I'm not really sure how much the elves play in that. Are we gonna is Elrond gonna be an integral part of that as well? Is he gonna be able to help in any way with the dwarves? Because I don't know what Elrond does from this point forward.
Well, they're gonna have to make Elrond some sort of military guy at some point.
True. Eventually, he's got to pick up a sword. But is he doing that now? We're not at the battles yet, where the elves and men are marching against Mordor. I guess how long does he need to be in the field before we feel like he's...
How are the other rings gonna get made?
Well, that's the other question, because I was always under the impression that...
I straight up came up with the impression that Galadriel left until anyone Halbrand was Sauron. Now Halbrand's just gonna go back and work on that.
So I
Celebrimbor.
Yeah, and so my theory is a little bit more more nuanced in that Halbrand / Sauron simply shapeshifts into someone.
Anatar. Yeah. So he could still get Anatar, Lord of the Gifts.
Right. So he shapeshifts and is able to get in that way. All these theories about Galadriel, just every theory that comes out about Galadriel is negative. It makes her even worse, and she's already the worst character in this thing. And yeah. I'm not even talking about the acting or anything. None of what I say is about actors or actresses. This character's terrible, and I have no idea how you come around with Galadriel. At this point, she's done everything wrong. The entire season, she did not a single thing right, not a single one. And now eventually she's going to have to become this elegant, intelligent, elvish lady of the woods that is able to battle the necromancer and is able to kind of has this presence about her.
I should rewatch The Hobbit now that I've seen this. Because how does that feel, her battling the necromancer? Knowing that, the necromancer wants to bang her.
Well, okay. Oh, Jesus. No, we're supposed to be talking about season 2, not weird weird Hobbit stuff. But this is my point. This is my point about these things have impacts on the other works within this realm. And so when you look at that scene, if you accept the Rings of Power as being a prequel, does that do anything about that scene? And I think it does. there's still 5 or 4 seasons left to turn this around for her, but I don't even know what the heck she's doing at this point, because she could literally go anywhere. It doesn't, like, wherever she goes, she's just going to cause problems, it seems. Like, she could go to the dwarves and try to mess around there. She could go with the Harfoots, for all I care, and try to do something there. I think ultimately she goes back to try to lead the humans, and in doing so, potentially, maybe she's the one that kills Adar. Thus,
and we have to get Celeborn in this somehow too.
True. But see, so I think to your point, and to the point of the whole idea that brought this on, I think Galadriel killing Adar, despite ruining her character even more, is a natural progression from the conversation they had when he was being interrogated. And when she kills him, that opens the door for Sauron to come in to the orcs and basically say, I'm sorry Adar died, I'll treat you better, like, I'll be the new Adar, like, that kind of stuff. Like, basically, he doesn't have anything to do with the Adar's death, and Adar just dies at the hands of an elf, thus allowing him to use that hatred of elves in the orcs to build them back up. That's one way we can get...
So, like, have Galadriel make even more fatal errors.
Yes. I at this point, she's such a useful tool. I can literally have her bring Sauron to Numenor as another disguised person and have that guy corrupt Numenor for, like, it doesn't even matter at this. Like, you could just use her to constantly screw stuff up for people and then have some big turn at the end. Like, that seems to be where they're going with this, because she's been terrible the entire time. Like, when is she gonna have a turn towards the good side? When is she gonna start listening to other people and like treating people with respect and just like not being negative to everyone? Oh man. Okay, so Harfoots. What are the Harfoots up to? I think we're done with the... I know you...
I mean, I don't even know. So we left them at the Grove, and they were heading... I guess they go back to that place they were at the beginning when we first saw them.
Yeah, now, I'm fine with a lot less Harfoots going forward. That's me personally.
I think we're mostly done with them. We'll have Nori and not Gandalf. I don't think he's Gandalf.
Yeah, Nori and that wizard guy. Who happens to know a lot of Gandalf phrases.
We might get some Poppy. Maybe we'll see Poppy become leader of the Harfoots.
So I think eventually, if they do continue with the Harfoots, they eventually get them to settle down in what is known as the Shire. That's my... I think that's the end goal for the Harfoots. I just don't want there to be that much of it. Like, they can literally just have a few scenes every episode or whatever where they're just like discovering Hobbit things. Like, that's all. Like, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It can just be kind of funny. Like, they really like potatoes. How about that? They discover potatoes and they're like, oh man, potatoes are awesome. There you go. There's your scene, and we move on. I know it's a meme, I know, but what else am I gonna do with this meme group? Like, that's all they are. Like, you cannot write serious content for the Harfoots. You just can't do it.
I mean, they move. So I'm getting feedback. Oh, it's a little better now. The Shire is in Eriador, like the kingdom that was. So maybe the hobbits move there once the Numenorians establish that as a kingdom. Oh. And they bring the hobbits under their protection.
I just always assumed that they
moved there after it collapsed.
No, I assumed the hobbits were kind of like always there and nobody noticed them.
Maybe.
Like there's just so much land that nobody had ever like gone to the Shire. Like, they had just always walked around it, and they didn't know that in the middle of this like vast wilderness was like a little town. That was like my sort of thought on that. But either way, like, I don't want a bunch of stuff with the Harfoots. And like you said, if we are gonna have Harfoot like Poppy leading the Harfoots, and we're gonna have Nori and the wizard, like, that's already too much.
Maybe Adar could be deposed somehow. Like, he doesn't die. He ends up going into hiding the same way Sauron did. and then Adar goes to live with the hobbits, and he teaches them he teaches them compassion, and then they become
No, Adar is dying. I'm sorry. We can't have this.
Adar teaches the Harfoots about compassion and how to treat your dead mom.
We can't. The Adar teaching people how to treat their dead partner. No, Adar is dying. He has to. Like, we cannot have this character walking around. It's an abomination. Orcs are the villains. We can't have like an orc Moses running around making us feel good about the orcs. He has to die so that the orcs can fulfill their true potential to be truly a villainous scum group. Okay, we cannot have Adar around. He has to die. As to your point,
he dies protecting the hobbits from I don't know who.
I think Poppy has a better arc to change the Harfoot ways, and like we're not gonna just leave people behind because you did that to my family. They were like trapped in like a snowbank, and you guys just abandoned them there. So we're not doing that anymore, and we're not gonna make fun of people when they die. We're gonna have a proper ceremony. We're not gonna say they're idiots for getting left behind. So I just want the Harfoots to kind of be just like comedic relief, just like kind of a bit of a flavoring. But I don't want big story arcs involving Poppy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she can just be elected as the new leader, or however they do it, and that's it. She finds a place to settle down. She's like, no more traveling. It's too dangerous. People keep getting left behind. We're gonna stay here forever. That's it. Nori and not Gandalf. What they're going east. I don't. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, what are like? I can literally see it going multiple ways.
I mean, that'll be interesting because we'll get to see a whole new part of Middle Earth.
If they make it
culture, a new culture even. Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Are we gonna see Treebeard in this? Is Gandalf? I mean, not Gandalf. Is not Gandalf gonna meet up with Treebeard at some point, or at least an Ent that we can then kind of have a parallel to Treebeard and Gandalf.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we see, like, we saw Ents during both in the trailers, but also in episode 1 of the meteor, right, crashing down to Earth. We saw Ents looking at that. So we know that they're there. I mean, we know they're there, but like the audience also knows they're there. So I think it's a mistake not to use them at that point. Like, that's like, they're traveling east. They're gonna pass right through Fangorn Forest. It's perfect. So that's what I see going on in season 2 with Nori and not Gandalf. And I think that just about leaves the humans. And we kind of already touched on them.
They go to that little delta.
Yeah.
That used to be a Numenorian colony.
Yeah. But does Galadriel kind of like rally them to charge back in and kill Adar, or do they start establishing like another region there? Like, I'm not really sure what, like, is there a story there? Like, I know we have characters there, but is there a story, especially now that Halbrand is gone? I guess they got Theo, so I guess we can kind of follow Theo and see.
We have Theo and Bronwyn and Arondir being a happy family right now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we just leave it like that. It's like a happy ending to one of these.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at. Obviously, we all believe Theo is going to turn,
because he's already showing signs of being easily corrupted.
Yes, and I think. I think if you are correct in that Sauron has already gotten to Mordor, he can easily get to that like the human colony, and he can pretend he's still Halbrand. and maybe at that point Theo joins him or whatever. Yeah, it's. I kind of want there to be a happy ending there between this elf human couple, but how does it work? I just don't see it. Like I feel like at the very least Theo getting corrupted is going to be sad. And maybe one of them dies. Like I don't know how you keep them together if Theo gets corrupted, because his mom's running after him. And
Yeah, you think about it, they probably need to kill Arondir.
yeah.
Because think about how elves are immortal.
Yeah.
Why don't we see Arondir in
Yep.
the Third Age? Just because he's died somehow. He had to
Yep.
have died.
Yep. And that potentially is what corrupts Theo. Because Theo is starting to really... Like, Theo started out kind of hating Arondir, and he has grown to kind of see him as a father figure. Like, we saw at the end of... I guess it was, like, episode
But they don't
7.
need to kill him. They could, like, throw him in with the Blue Wizards, like he's in the Far East or the Far South.
You really don't want to kill these characters off. There's a part of me, though, that I agree with you. But there's a part of me that realizes that, like, without the death for Boromir and Theoden, the characters, they didn't need to die, but just based on how the characters made choices and how they were perceived after their death, like without the death, they do kind of you do kind of lose something with those characters. Like Boromir and his his tragic sacrifice. Without that, Boromir is missing a huge part of the character that we know, and so
maybe we could see Arondir do a Boromir sacrifice protecting
Theo.
Bronwyn and Theo or something.
And maybe it's at the hands of Numenor, so then Theo joins Sauron to fight. I don't know, like this, whatever it is, Theo has to get corrupted, and I think that it makes sense to kill off his second father figure again.
What do you think happens to? I know we're going back, but we like this guy. So what do you think happens to Waldreg?
Oh man, I mean, I really hope this guy gets a high up position in Sauron's army, like maybe Mouth of Sauron, maybe. Maybe he can become one of the ringmates.
I know the Mouth of Sauron's supposed to be a Numenorian, like a black Numenorian.
Ah, darn. Okay. Well, then we have a spot for.
They could retcon that though. It's
True.
Waldreg now.
True. I really like Waldreg. I think. It's unfortunate that we're not going to get to see him in his native inhabitant. Like he was just an owner of an inn. I really thought that was he played that part so well. He made me want to go to that inn. At this point, he is comedy relief. Like he's literally just there to be the only human in a world of orcs, where he's like, what do we do now, orc friends? Like, I'm a fellow orc too. And he's the only human. Now, what he could do is he could help corrupt or harm the human colony. He could maybe escape from them, or maybe he's a spy he's sent over there to infiltrate the humans and be like, hey, I escaped these orcs. I realized they were bad. And now he's pretending to be a good human, and he's really just reporting back to the orcs. I hope we see more of him, but I just don't see him being that involved, especially if they don't show Adar as much.
Maybe we'll see Theo. Theo craves the sword, so he sneaks back into Mordor to try to get the sword back.
I see. And he asks Waldreg where it is, and he's like, it's in that mountain. I put it, it's a key, you fool. It was a key all along. Yeah, I don't know. The character I wish had a bit more of a, he was a serious character prior to the orcs being more involved. And then at that point, he was kind of comedy relief after the big sacrifice scene. Which I still don't quite understand, but that's a different topic. So yeah, I think he we're gonna lose. We gotta lose a bunch of these characters, not death wise, but just we can't follow them all. Like I don't think we're gonna see much of the King of the Elves like anymore, right? Like we barely even see him here.
Oh no, you have to see more of him though, because he's the one who kills Sauron. In the movie actually kind of.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The Jackson kind of made it out that Isildur killed Sauron,
Yeah.
but like I think in the actual canon, it's oh, why do I forget? What is the King of the Elves' names?
I forget.
High King Gil-galad.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So it's
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad and Elendil kill Sauron, but they both get killed in the process, and then Isildur just kind of picks up the scraps after.
Oh. Well, if we go by movie, then all I need is Isildur to talk with Halbrand / Sauron to add to that. But if you're going by books, then Elendil, someone we haven't talked about. That character better not be taking a step back. That character is the best character right now. Maybe Elrond as well. I kind of really like Elrond too. But Elendil is killing it. Like now he's depressed because he thinks his son's dead. So hopefully he doesn't take a huge step back and like regress into like a nothing character. But yeah, that's interesting. I personally like Gil-galad was barely in this, and how much more? Like obviously the elves are gonna make more rings eventually. I just don't get why, because these rings were to help the elves survive. Why are they going to make more rings? I just don't understand now.
Well, Celebrimbor wants to. Celebrimbor, I guess. I mean, I'm making stuff up, but I'm guessing he just likes the dwarves and he likes the humans and he wants them to have rings too.
I get a feeling. I mean, you know how I feel about this Celebrimbor guy, but it's not the character in the books, the actor and character in the Rings of Power. I think this character and actor, I just don't like it. But he kind of has the sense that he just likes building stuff. So maybe he like just keeps building rings or making rings and like just enjoys it. And how does he get corrupted though? Like at what point is Sauron coming back to like pour in some corruption juice or whatever he's got to do to corrupt these
I don't
rings?
know.
Like because I always understood it to be Sauron had a hand in forging the rings for the humans and the dwarves.
The elf one was separate though.
Yeah. Now
That's
here.
why they weren't corrupted.
Yeah. Now here.
And the dwarves resist the corruption. The dwarves aren't corrupted by the rings.
Right, because their corruption just makes them more greedy, right? It doesn't actually like turn them evil. It just makes them more selfish and greedy, which they already kind of seem to be from the show. But they're not that bad because Durin is actually pretty.
But I think even the humans, like the corruption's not instant. It takes them, like going from being a human king with a ring of power to becoming a ring wraith is the process of several hundred years. It's not like they became evil ring wraiths
like
day one.
You don't put it on and then like boom, you're invisible and an evil ring wraith,
Yeah.
and you can't take it off.
So I mean we talk about, we're going down a different road, but we talk about Bilbo showing resilience for the ring, having had it for 60 years. He actually didn't have it that long in the scheme of things.
No.
Because I think it takes hundreds of years for you to actually be converted to a wraith.
True. Now, the thing, though, is that is the one ring, and we saw with other people just being nearby, it seemed to have some draw towards them. Like, even Gandalf, the way he rejects the ring, he's angry. Like, he it's hard for him to even, like, don't tempt me, Frodo. Like, he yells that. And it comes off as like he's thought about that, and the fact like he's been sitting close to this ring too long. He's already thought like, what if I take it? And like he knows that thought entering his mind is not him, it's the ring. And we see it with Boromir too. Boromir has a hard time.
But you think about it, the ring wouldn't want to be taken. Like, the ring having a will of its own, it wouldn't want to be taken by Gandalf, because the ring knows that Gandalf having the ring is bad for Sauron.
Well, yeah, so that, it's kind of the whole premise behind
maybe the ring reverse psychology Gandalf to not pick him up.
Okay, like so there's the joke version like that, but then there's also the version that and now this is obviously a lot of people debate this, and you can go see this all over YouTube, but the whole idea of the ring kind of wanting to be held by a human because the humans are the most corruptible, and its thought process, like you are pointing out, it doesn't actually want to go to Gandalf. However, I think a part of the ring does think the easiest way forward would be get Gandalf to put the ring on. Gandalf immediately takes me to Mordor to confront Sauron or whatever, and that's where we can maybe defeat. Obviously, I think we all agree Gandalf with the ring would beat Sauron. But then at that point, when Sauron is defeated, quote unquote, defeated and killed, he's still in the ring, right? Like, a part of him is still in the ring, and then that ring corrupts Gandalf over time, and eventually Gandalf is essentially a pseudo Sauron, right? Like, that's the idea. I wonder if the ring thought maybe that's a fine end goal.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So I don't know how much of it is like wanting to get back to Sauron, like true form Sauron, or how much of it is like, oh, if I can just go to Galadriel, or if I can just go to Gandalf and become a Dark Lord through those means, that's probably good enough. Like, that's pretty good too. So I do wonder, like, because like you point out, the ring, if it wants to get back to Sauron, sometimes it's taking a bizarre route to get there. But I think ultimately it's just trying to get back to someone of power, and Gandalf is a powerful wizard. And so the ring thought, hey, maybe this is a way to either Gandalf can become the new Sauron, or Gandalf confronts Sauron or Saruman or whomever, and I get to be passed along to someone more powerful. But I think this particular ring, like you said, it has a mind of its own, a will of its own, kind of. I do think it corrupts more speedily. And so I do wonder how long, like, so Bilbo held the ring for, what do we think, 60 years? Maybe a little bit more. Would that have corrupted Boromir? I think yes. I think that
it would have corrupted Boromir before he got back to Gondor.
Man, this is not becoming a shit talk Boromir session. Boromir is
Boromir even says that.
Screw Boromir is the true son of Gondor. Boromir is great because he has weaknesses and recognizes them and wants to better himself. I am not gonna slander Boromir, but yes, Boromir would have been corrupted before. Boromir was corrupted before they left Rivendell. He was already like, how can I get this ring? But okay, so someone like Aragorn resists this ring a couple times. Not obviously, it's not always obvious, because he kind of resists it at the Council of Elrond. He also resists it multiple times throughout their journey, and there's a point at which Frodo essentially offers it to Aragorn, and Aragorn turns it down. But Aragorn would definitely have also been corrupted by this ring if he had worn it for a length of time, I think. I know people are going to come at me now because they love Aragorn. Look, I love Aragorn too. I'm not like comparing Boromir, Aragorn, like all these characters. Like, Aragorn is great the way he is. In fact, I think Aragorn is one of the best representations of any type of heroic character that I've ever seen. Some might argue that he's a little too good. Like, he doesn't seem to have a weakness. He's almost like a Superman. I think his weakness is actually his own inner turmoil. So I do think he has a weakness. But we're getting sidetracked here. I just think that the ring, the One Ring, is more powerful than these other rings. And so while the ring wraith stuff, it may take a while for that, I do think that the One Ring would corrupt a lot of these beings a lot more quickly. We almost kind of see it corrupt Galadriel, and she doesn't even touch it. It's just kind of in front of her, and Frodo kind of offers it to her, and she almost takes it.
Yeah, and she quotes her old boyfriend.
Yeah. That's our new thing. Hey, we're gonna have a big Lord of the Rings party, and instead of our normal chit chat and quoting the movie as it goes, we're gonna just point out every time that Rings of Power screwed this thing up. We're like, oh well, look at those hobbits. They don't know what they're doing. They're supposed to be hiding, and they're supposed to be killing each other and leaving each other to die. And there's Galadriel talking about her old boyfriend again. That's why she doesn't want to go. That's why she doesn't want to help the Fellowship. They need a wizard. They need a guide. But she doesn't want to help because she doesn't want to get sucked into a new relationship with that guy. She's already married her whomever that guy is.
I can't go. Celeborn would be really jealous.
Yeah. I can't go. I have to stay home.
Celeborn talks to Galadriel. Do I need to worry about this guy?
Oh, didn't you want to go with him, dear? No. I'm worried that I might I might not come back. Because in place of a Dark Lord, they could have a queen. It's gonna be interesting watching these movies with you. That's for sure. Yeah, so that was a bit of a tangent. But essentially, in terms of season 2, I do think there's some interesting things coming around. Like, we've got the dwarf stuff and Numenor stuff, both political intrigue. I think that's gonna draw in a lot of Game of Thrones fans, because that's ultimately what they want. Like, peak, if you talk to any Game of Thrones fan, peak Game of Thrones is like season 4, Tyrion's trial. And that's essentially what you're gonna get in if they write it, obviously, if they write it correctly. But there's the building blocks towards great political drama, both with dwarf and Numenor storylines. In terms of the Adar Sauron conflict, we've pointed out multiple ways this can go down. I do think Adar needs to go. I don't think a character that is this seemingly wholesome can stick around and allow us to hate orcs again. Like, he's essentially made us question our hatred of orcs, which is a good thing. But eventually, we need these orcs to be so bad that they're the villains again. Harfoots, I mean, I don't actually care what they do with the Harfoots, so I'm okay to either completely stop and maybe pop back in like once a season, or if we do have them in an episode, it's like 1 or 2 scenes, but like nothing too silly or crazy, just kind of like showing them growing as a society. And that's Galadriel is the big question mark, because Galadriel can go anywhere. Like other characters are kind of locked in place, like we kind of know where they're going to be, but Galadriel and Sauron are big question marks. I honestly have no idea what happens with Galadriel now. Like, if she, to your point, and actually this is a theory that maybe people aren't taking serious enough that you've brought up, Galadriel doesn't want to tell anybody that she brought Sauron to the elves because they'll send her away again, and she doesn't want to go away. So maybe she keeps that information to herself simply because she's embarrassed by her bad decision making. You know, like, that makes sense to me. Like, we've already seen this character screw up too many times, and she understands that she screwed up now, but she can't go back on that. She's committed to this, like, this idea. So now maybe she just simply says, hey, Halbrand's kind of sketchy, I just don't like him, don't trust him anymore. But she does not reveal who he actually is. And to your point, Celebrimbor really likes making...
He likes the guy.
He likes the guy.
He likes Hal.
Like this guy, like Halbrand was quote unquote worshiping him, right? Like he's like, oh man, this is like the best thing ever, working side by side with you and getting to see you work, and like you're the greatest smith of all time, like all this stuff. Like he is really like laying it on thick there, and so I could see him literally not taking Galadriel seriously. Like, what does she know? Like she's crazy. This guy's great, and not caring at all that he has been told not to have dealings with him. So like there is some reality in which that works out, like that makes sense on screen. I just think at this point, like at some point, we do have to start Galadriel on her path to redemption and becoming the intelligent, wise, sagely lady of the woods that we know. And we can't just keep having, like, I know I joke about having her like go around and screw up everyone else's storyline. We can't have that. Like at some point, we're supposed to really like this character at the end. Like we're supposed to think this character's the greatest, but I don't know how we get there at this point. I guess that about wraps it up. Do you have anything else to add about season 2? Your expectations? Any thoughts?
Did we forget any characters? I think we covered everyone.
We've covered all the major players. We obviously have some side characters. Like there's some people in Numenor, like you touched on, that are kind of side characters.
Like the boyfriend.
Yeah.
The sister.
We know that some of the rings...
well, we left off with the sister seeing that vision.
You're right. The fact that the sister has been such a big part, like bigger than I thought she would be, to be honest. I honestly did not think she needed to be in the show at all at this point. But she's in it. I think she has a big role to play. Maybe she helps with the downfall of Numenor. Maybe she is... maybe
she's more of a Kingsman at this point.
She is.
Yeah.
And maybe she helps convince her father to join. I mean, I don't really know what's in the cards for Elendil, but
she should become more of an elf like her after seeing these visions.
Yeah, so that's sort of my like. So we kind of know that Elendil has to leave eventually. I think, right? Doesn't he have to start a kingdom somewhere else, or at least like lead a group somewhere else to like?
Yeah, I think all the elf, they call them the faithful.
Yeah.
They all have to leave at some point.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to get kicked out.
So either she helps with that process by helping get them kicked out, or she like warns her father of pending trouble, and like basically says we all have to leave. Like I can see her kind of,
because this is Atlantis. We need to get out of here.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, like that. I can see her having that kind of role. I don't know how much like we really laid into some jokes on the fact that there's this like thirsty guy, the son of Farazan, who just like will do whatever she says. I don't know how much that's gonna keep going. I think it's really funny. I think it's a really like.
It's almost comic relief.
I think it's I think it's deliberate. So I do think they deliberately set up their relationship to be funny, because he's so thirsty and she's just like does not care about him at all. It's not even friend zone. Like she doesn't even like him. She's just using him to get what she wants, which in a vacuum sounds bad, but she's doing it because she thinks that there's some dire need to help people, and this guy has information. So
she blows up a boat for him. He blows up a boat for her.
He blows up a boat for her. Yeah, I forgot about that. Let us go.
It's like his.
I love how.
And then they cut to everyone in like the throne room talking about how maybe we shouldn't go. There's some serious dissent about the war, and it's like, no, it's just your son. It's literally your son, and he just wants to get laid.
I know. And the funny thing is, like, that scene has two great moments because we've got this thirsty guy blowing up, like, committing terrorism because a girl touched his arm. But then we also...
and he wants her to touch his arm again.
and And then we have Isildur, who's like a bum.
Stowing
He's
away.
a stowaway. He's like sleeping in the horse section of the boat. And like he sees this thirsty guy come in who's trying to blow up this ship. And it's clear that neither one of them like want to do anything. Because this guy's just doing it to impress a girl, and he's just doing it because he wants to leave the island. Like neither one of them want to get into any sort of trouble, so they had like this weird little battle. It's such a funny scene, and I don't know if it was meant to be. If it was, genius, but if not, like okay, you got it. Like Isildur is such a sketchy, crappy character as well. Like that's the other thing. Now, I don't know if he ever needs to be redeemed because I don't actually know how Isildur was when he was alive, pre and post Ring. I don't know what he was like. Maybe he was kind of a douchebag. I don't know. But this character, definitely douchebag material. Yeah, I don't I know he has to live, and I kind of care how he escapes and if he meets up with Halbrand / Sauron.
I have another idea. So
what's that?
Remember how I said maybe Halbrand revives Isildur?
Mm-hmm.
So Halbrand revives Isildur, and then after he revives Isildur, he looks over at Antimo's body and says, I can revive that guy too.
Oh, no.
And Isildur says, forget about it.
Isildur goes, but I don't even know who that guy is.
Forget about it.
Who's that guy? Like, we're not gonna waste revive powers on just anybody. Cut to a flashback of him like with his girlfriend, and Isildur's like, screw that guy. I wasn't even friends with him anyway. He was just like followed me. Oh man, imagine this show told from like the perspective of these background characters, like that guy, Waldrig, some random dwarf, like watching all the dwarf drama unfold. Like there's so much craziness going down, and like some of these characters are really getting a bad role here. And I mean, we didn't even touch on this, but like the queen being blind, is that potentially a reason why she feels she needs a king to help lead her people? Like maybe she feels weakened in some aspect, and that people won't treat her with respect as a leader because she can't see, and so she needs a king or at least someone by her side where people can still feel that she's capable of running Numenor.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know, like, so there's two ways to do the corruption, right? There's like the outward corruption of like basically like convincing someone to do bad stuff, but then there's also this corruption like of political power where you seduce people with like, oh, you need help ruling this ruling this city, this country. Well, I've been your right hand man for so long, I'll help you, let's get married. And then at that point, then like he's like seduced her into like this idea of like having it be a good union, and then he just kind of usurps the power. So there's a couple different avenues they can go, and same as Halbrand. Like we saw Halbrand doing the slow seductive seducing of Galadriel, trying to get her to join him, whereas with the orcs I think it's going to be more of an outward, like, we need, like, look at these humans and elves, they've done you so much harm, we must kill them. And that's how you get the orcs to basically lose all of their morality that we've been kind of building up. Although I say that with like a grain of salt. Like they did have a slave labor camp after all. So, you know, like they're not like wholly good creatures that are corrupted here. There is some badness to them. It's just they're living creatures that deserve some modicum of respect and humility and humanity. And so I think that's ultimately what Adar brings, and that's why his death helps the story. Like, it helps everyone's story. Like, Adar is such a good character now, like you pointed out. Like, his death makes so much stuff happen. I just cannot see him living, despite you wanting him to live. Now, it would be interesting to see him kind of try to come back to the elves, right? Because we think he's an elf. That's our thought, right? We think he's an elf that was one of the first corrupted. And,
yes, that's what he is too.
And through that, he has grown to. He sees himself as an orc, in a way, and he wants to help his fellow people, his fellow group, and to have him maybe try to come back to the elves would be an interesting thing. But I truly think this guy needs to die to progress both Sauron, the orcs, possibly allows Galadriel to add another notch on her belt of bad decisions. That Adar is like the linchpin here. Adar has to go down. All the other stories don't really matter too much. Like, you could literally have all the other stories just go any which way. Like, the dwarves could either be, weird and have skip the eldest brother to have a different king. Numenor could literally have a fight between the king and queensmen. It could have the king and queen getting married. It could have all sorts of stuff. But the only thing that has to happen is there has to be some trauma with the orcs and Adar for the orcs to come around and be evil again.
I just had a thought. I mean, because we know how we said, I'm getting feedback is a problem, but that's a little, hopefully, it's gone away. Remember how they said it was a problem with Durin the Third and Durin the Fourth being alive at the same time?
Yeah.
And then also the dwarves having a secret, maybe that's how they reconcile. But also the other way of reconciling it is that Durin the Fourth never becomes king, and therefore is not Durin the Fourth. He's just a Durin that never became king, so he wouldn't have Durin the Fourth next to his name in all the kings we see.
Okay, I see.
So maybe he never becomes king, but his brother becomes king. Durin the Fourth never becomes king.
Oh, and that would give him leave to go start like a dwarven colony or town somewhere in another mountain. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. I really think this is more of a want, not a need. Like I said, Adar is a need. Like, there has to be something there. But with this, I really like Elrond and Durin. Like, I think those two characters, they have such good chemistry. I know there's some bad dialogue. I know about the whole give it to me raw. I get it. But the chemistry of the actors and the characters, it is it does make you feel good. Like, it's a very friendly, like, this is a true friendship. These characters have a ton of mutual respect for each other. I think to have Elrond leave that, it's maybe Durin joins Elrond and maybe that's when Elrond starts fighting. Like, maybe they go off together, like, whatever. But I think those characters, it'd be really sad to see them separated. At least that's my take.
Actually, that could be the angle. Like how do we? Well, you have Disa like looking all Sith-y, and that she wants Durin to like take his place back.
Yeah.
But having him being like kicked out of this line of succession, that's one way to just get Durin out of the mountain and becoming a character in the show.
True.
Outside of just being stuck in the mine for the rest of the show.
Well, because it's not even clear. I mean, other than having an avenue for the rings to get to the dwarves, right? Like, maybe like that's like Celebrimbor is gonna obviously make some rings and give them to the dwarves. I'm not sure why at this point. Maybe it's just to be friendly. Maybe it's because they feel slighted because they use the mithril to make rings. Whatever. I always saw the dwarf part of this story as more of like they're setting up an avenue to get rings into the hands of dwarves. But I've since come to really like the dwarves and the characters there. Like, I think that's one of the better parts of the show for me. So I hope we continue with the dwarves. I just don't know what else there is to do. So like you said, we can get Durin out of the mountain, but then we like lose all the dwarf we lose the society of the dwarves that I also like. So it's like a win-lose for me. Like, I want this character to be in it a lot, but at the same time, I also like your idea of having him and Elrond kind of go off on their own, or maybe Disa comes, like maybe the whole family comes, or maybe the whole group comes, and they start their own settlement somewhere. And that allows Elrond to start fighting, or at least start the inner workings within his mind that he's gonna have to fight for something. So yeah, I don't know. That part is really up in the air for me too, because I know we have some political drama coming, but if that's all it is, at some point Elrond needs to leave, and then I'll be sad. So, yeah, I wish Elrond could stay in there for a lot longer, but eventually he does have to become the general that we all seem to be. And I still say he needs a huge falling out with Durin or with the dwarves. Like there needs to be a moment where he starts to like lose faith and respect for the dwarves, where he's like, I can't trust these guys ever again. And that's why he reacts the way he does to the dwarves in The Hobbit, and that's also why he's kind of condescending to the dwarves in the original trilogy. He just dwarves have left a bad taste in his mouth, and he can't get rid of it. But I think that's about covers it. That's all the characters, like all of the named characters, essentially. So, yeah, let us know in the comments down below if you guys have any ideas or theories about what might happen here. I think we've covered quite a bit of theories, and we've kind of given multiple directions some of these characters can go. But hey, sometimes someone comes up with an amazing theory that I read online, and I'm just like, that's so exciting. I hope I see that. So let us know in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you guys. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.
I regret to announce this is the end. I bid you all a very fond farewell.